everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. I am really excited today. This is like the Christmas day of movie fans because, well, yesterday we got the exciting announcements from the Oscars, and we have the Oscar nominations. And so I am here to talk about them. And of course, I had to bring my friend Conrado on to go over all of these with me. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. And Conrado, thanks so much for coming on and talking about the Oscars.
Thank you, Rachel. I am very happy to be coming to you live from the holy ground that are the famous New York City steps where Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker did that incredible dance. I am right there right now as we record. I am surrounded by millions of fans. We're all here dancing in our red suits, just celebrating that the Joker, one of the most underrated characters of all time, who nobody remembers and nobody really thinks about, has finally gotten his due with 11 Oscar nominations. It's a day to rejoice here in the Bronx.
Yeah. It's going to be a yearly ritual, I think, for you. Maybe even more than that.
Absolutely, every single day. We're not gonna stop dancing in these stairs until Joaquin wins the Oscar.
It's going to be exciting. That's great. I mean, I'm personally furious that that Cats was completely snubbed.
Well, sometimes a movie is just ahead of its time. You know what I mean? 2001: Space Odyssey didn't get it. Citizen Kane didn't get it. Cats is just in that league of like movies that totally transform the cinematic experience.
Yeah.
So, we can't ask too much of the Academy.
Yeah. Those old white men, they just have no vision. Well, yes. So they had the Oscar nominations, and we're going to go over each of the categories, each of the Best Picture nominees. But I guess if you had to pick one of your biggest overall surprises, what would that be?
Well, I think some of the surprises and frustrations we can say for individual categories. I think the thing that surprised me the most in a positive way was I thought a great showing for Parasite, and for the first South Korean movie to be nominated for foreign language film to begin with, and also for Best Picture, which is really unprecedented and really exciting. Bong Joon-ho nominated for director. It even got editing and art, production design, which I think means that it has a real shot at taking the big win at the end of the day. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, me too. I love that movie, and I said on Twitter that in a way I feel almost a little nervous because we live in this horrible backlash culture where nothing can be like loved that much, and so I'm just waiting for that to happen with Parasite, like waiting for the it's not that good, kind of like sort of, it's so far. It's kind of the only thing I can compare it to is I feel like it kind of happened with Spider-Verse. I really didn't see a ton of backlash, even within the animation community, that because you have tons of people fighting about Andrew Garfield versus Tobey Maguire versus what, but I saw very little backlash when it came to Into the Spider-Verse being a good movie. I feel like almost everybody agrees. And
totally.
So maybe that's Parasite will like ride that line, because I don't know. There's certain things like I know I definitely felt it with Boyhood, that when I went and saw it, it was such a special experience to me. And I personally just loved it, and it was something unique and different, and I kind of felt like this is not something that's for like everyday moviegoers. And so when it was I felt a little like, oh, it's the special thing, it's being thrown to the masses, and oh no, and then all of a sudden it's the worst thing ever, and I just and certainly
Well,
people felt that way about La La Land. I don't know. I just that sort of backlash. I hate it. It's the
yeah.
worst.
Well, when you become the front runner, you are just put up to a different kind of scrutiny.
Yeah,
Which I
yeah,
think the fact that we have so many movies that are doing well with the fact that Joker 1917, um, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood got so many nominations, doesn't make Parasite look like the overwhelming frontrunner, right? And I think, like you said, its secret weapon seems to be the fact that people just really like it, and the backlash is just not there just because it's that much of a well-made movie, of a crowd pleaser of a kind that people just they have to, everyone kind of accepts that, yeah, that was a really fun movie and it was really well made.
yeah, yeah. It really was. It's just so entertaining. So I don't know. It's just special. I like don't throw it to the wolves. I don't know, but I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I'm really really excited, and it was so cool to see the clip of them watching the announcement. Um, the scene.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was
did you see that?
yeah. Whereas it's Song Kang Ho, the actor, and the Parasite team are watching the
Yeah,
announcement nominations. Yeah, that was really great, and really great how he doesn't spill his coffee at
I
all
know,
in his
I know.
celebration.
That was
Very,
good.
yeah, very. That's a performance that should
Yeah,
be rewarded as well.
yeah, it was really cool, and also I saw the the people behind the Hair Love short. I saw the clip
Mm,
of them watching the announcement, and that really warmed my heart and it made me
yeah,
feel good. And so yeah, that's pretty cool. And so all right, well let's dive uh, into these, and I'll talk about some maybe my surprises as we go along,
great.
and some of the controversy or whatever. Um, okay, so there were 9 Best Picture nominees,
Mm-hmm.
and why did they even have? Why not use all 10 options? I don't understand that.
Um,
Is that frustrating to you at all?
I think I've gotten used to it by now. I think it's a little strange, but it makes it like it adds a element of randomness that I feel like it's appropriate for a thing that is quite silly in of in itself. Like award shows are very random; they don't
Yeah,
mean anything and things like. So I don't know. I feel like it kind of fits with the whole thing.
yeah. Yeah, I guess I can see that. I don't know. It's just like if we can celebrate 10 films, why not?
Hmm.
There were certainly 10
Yeah.
good movies.
I heard someone, I don't remember who it was, so one of those people who like explain the methods and the math of the nominations, who was saying that it was practically mathematically impossible to get 10, even though it's
Uh,
like supposed to be a possibility. So I
yeah.
wouldn't expect us to get any
Mm,
year of actually 10 nominees as long as
interesting.
it's this method.
Mm.
Yeah. Seems like the max is 9, really. I mean, I think the chances are there. They're just so small. They're less than 1% of getting 10 nominees.
I guess they just have to get so many votes that it has to, in order to qualify, or a certain percentage of the votes or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so all right. Well, uh, the first one that we'll talk about is Ford v Ferrari. We're not gonna dive super deep into, because we have very different opinions on a lot of these movies.
Yeah, and we
But
had
we're just gonna give our
24.
short views and talk about it. But you can read our various content or listen to our various content that to learn more, I guess. But we'll talk a little bit about it. So anyway, Ford v Ferrari was directed by James Mangold, and this covers a lot of ground that I like. I like sports movies. First of all, I like stories about friendship, and this is both of those things. I think it's actually even more a story of friendship than it is a racing movie. Um, and I thought that was done really well. I really liked little things like the relationship between Christian Bale's character and his son. I really liked the relationship between him and his wife. I thought that it was just super crowd pleasing, super fun. I saw it in a theater that was probably 1,000 degrees. It was so hot, and I still had a really, really good time. And so it was a movie I really enjoyed.
Hmm. Yeah, I had, I think, a bit of the opposite experience. It's probably one of my least favorite of the nominees. I just think it's old-fashioned in not a good way, in my opinion. The script I find very cliched and full of predictable, not very exciting stuff. And my one of my biggest problems is Christian Bale's performance. I really, really disliked. Find him very annoying. So yeah, not a huge fan of Ford v Ferrari.
Okay. All right. So then The Irishman, I actually saw this in the theater. Yeah, I
Ah.
was one of the strong. Um, and I didn't care for this film. And maybe that was because I did see it in the theater. I don't know. But I just felt like, so they set up the Robert De Niro character as this soldier for the mafia. He treats it the same way that he treated being a soldier, and he just follows orders.
Mm.
But the problem with that is I feel like it creates a pretty uninteresting character. He doesn't actually really, he's not morally challenged as a character until the very end of the movie, until the last, this is a long movie, the last 45 minutes, 30 minutes of the
Mhm.
movie is, he has no sort of moral questioning or moral um uh about anything that he's doing. And so that's not really, I don't think that's interesting to follow the soldier of the mafia until the very end, when he finally starts to wonder about his legacy and his life and his daughter, and then it finally kind of gets interesting to me. But I just feel like there's fundamental character problems in this movie, and it's very self-indulgent in length and scenes that was just like, what is happening here? Nothing is happening. Why is this scene going on so long? And so it's not a movie that's made for me. I get it, I'm in the minority, but it wasn't my favorite. What did you think?
Mm. I
Irishman.
feel similar to you actually. I think the last, like you say, the last 45 minutes are where the interesting stuff is, and it's really kind of a slog to get there in many ways. Um, I just don't know if, I mean, there's some good acting in here. I like Pacino and I like Joe Pesci, and I think at the end there's some interesting stuff, but I don't think it's anything that uh, warrants the, I don't know, it just doesn't
Uh-huh.
feel like such new territory. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
feel very exciting or very new, not even for Scorsese to be doing this. And not just because it's a mob movie, but you know, he's bringing that whole like old man looking back and regretful at life kind of thing to it. I just don't find it particularly exciting. My
But
wife
so,
really hated it.
oh really?
Yeah,
I feel like I would
she
get along
won't.
with your
She
wife.
yeah, she keeps talking about how much she hated this movie.
Well, the thing is, like, if you compare it to a movie like Amadeus, which is
Hmm.
also about an old man looking back at his life, like
Hmm.
that movie, it sets that up from the very beginning. It's something about retrospective, which I didn't feel like that was the case here. And
No,
so,
definitely not. I think yeah, I think that ending wants to catch you by surprise a little bit, or like wants to be a little bit unexpected in some ways.
yeah.
But yeah,
It,
yeah.
yeah, and the if you think about it in comparison to The Godfather, in The Godfather, like you immediately have the moral dilemma of the character, because with Michael, because he says from the very beginning he is not his family, and yet he is, and so that's what makes the story interesting. Is,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not like the biggest fan of The Godfather in the world, but I think it's way better than this, because you just have an immediate interesting character dilemma for this character. I don't know. So, but obviously, we're in the big minority of The Irishman, which is cool. So if you are listening and you love it, let us know what your favorite parts of The Irishman are. Okay, so then we have Jojo Rabbit. And so Jojo Rabbit is a satire, but it's about a little boy in Nazi Germany who has been indoctrinated about Nazism, and this is at the end of the war. And so he ends up having those views. He comes to realize that he has been taught incorrectly, and he has a imaginary Hitler that starts out the movie as this kind of ridiculous version, obviously, of Hitler. And so through the course of the movie, he comes to realize what he's been taught is wrong. And so I really thought that this was a really lovely film. I thought that it managed to get that balance of humor and humanity. And I thought that Thomasin McKenzie was so good as this girl who is being hidden in the walls that he comes to know, that starts to change his views. And it's obviously not going to be for everybody because it is very, very edgy, I guess, very risky. But I really liked it. I thought it was really good. So I know you feel very differently. So
yeah, I think this is my least favorite of the nominees, actually. And not because it's too edgy, but I think a little bit the opposite. I feel like for me, it has a lot of potential, and it just doesn't really go there in the way that I want it to. I'm not gonna get too into it now. If people want to know what I think of it, they can go into my letterbox. Actually, I wrote a little bit about it and what I find frustrating about the movie. But yeah, I feel like as a satire about indoctrination, it takes a bit of the easy way out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those movies that's going to be divisive for sure. So depending on how you kind of take it, what they do. So there we go. Okay, then we have Joker, which I just watched last night. I know. Finally watched it. I had decided not to watch it unless it was nominated for Best Picture, because I just had such a backlash about Shazam that I just didn't want to do that again. I was pretty sure I wouldn't like it. But
just to be clear, you didn't want to be subjected to the fact that if you didn't like the movie, you were going to get a million emails and messages and threads from people who are like the crazy DC people, right?
Exactly. What should I say? I'm going to continue that this year, where I'm going to be very, very particular about the superhero movies that I review, because it's just such a toxic environment that I don't know. I just, like, if I'm not being paid by an organization to review a film, then I have to think of my own mental health at a certain point.
Absolutely. Why subject yourself to that? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so the problem that I had with this film is that it's setting up this kind of this cautionary tale of this character, Arthur Fleck, that she's turned into a supervillain. And this is what society does. Society, the way we treat people with mental health, the way that we, all of these things. But the problem is that there's no really any counterbalance ever portrayed, which I think that makes his choices less interesting, first of all, and second of all, it makes it just feel obvious that of course that's what he's going to do, because he's never presented with any humanity that this is the option. That, I mean, because that's what's true evil, is when somebody is turns away from the light, right? I mean, that's what makes and does horrible things despite beautiful children and wonderful things in life and blessings and good people, and like when you become evil despite all of that wonderfulness. And in this case, it's just like everything is terrible, everything is evil, everything hates him. There's never, I mean, even his mother at a certain point is somebody manipulative of him, like everyone. And I think that that even children are beating him up. It's like there's not a counter. There's not a different choice that he could have taken that would have been valid or even really sensible. And so that's where I have a problem with it being this kind of origin story, because an origin story presents some kind of choice, whereas this is no choice. So that's was my kind of takeaway. I didn't really care for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with you for the most part. Yeah, I think it's just empty gesture. I feel like it's wanting to be provocative, but its provocations have no real point of view. I think it's kind of empty, right? Like it's not a movie that, like, if you look at it, like I don't think it has anything interesting to say about mental health. I don't think it has anything interesting to say about politics, like, or like oppression or social justice or lack thereof, or like the systems that oppress people or anything like that, not even from a point of view that I disagree with. I will say I find the one thing that I think is interesting about Joker is that it's the first movie, or they might have done it in the comics, I don't know, because I haven't read all Batman comics, but as far as I know, this is the first time that I've seen people treat the fact that Bruce Wayne is a millionaire as a bit of a complicated problem. I feel like the way they portray the Thomas Wayne character as this kind of like really selfish kind of politician, and what that would mean for Batman as a character was interesting to me. But of course, the movie doesn't really go that far into that. It's interested in other stuff. But that's the one thing that I thought was interesting, and I hope that people do more with that, because usually they just portray Batman as like the very righteous millionaire, and I don't know, my opinion about millionaires right now is not that they're righteous.
Well, they try to get into some of that in The Dark Knight Rises with the whole there's some like social political kind of dynamics that try to happen there, but but
that also doesn't make sense. It's kind of incoherent, but because I feel these big studio movies, they can't really take a stance there, because they're going to alienate half of the audience that is going to go see them. So they can't really be specific about some of this stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. So that's interesting. All right. Well, then we had Little Women, and I was actually on 2 different podcasts, on the Lambcast and then also on Hallmarkie's podcast, where I did rankings of Little Women adaptations. So I'll put links in the description if people want to listen to that. The one on Hallmarkie's I did with critic Alonso Duralde, and so that was really fun. We ranked.
Oh yeah, I love Alonso. Great.
He's been such a great mentor to me. But we ranked the 1933, 1949, 1994, and then this one. And we also did our Dreamcast, which was really fun.
Oh,
yeah, it was a fun episode. And,
I should listen to that. I didn't know you guys did that.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. And yeah, so I love Little Women. It's one of my favorite. It was the first book that ever really impacted me. It was the first book I was ever really like proud of. Like, look, Mom, I finished this big book, and so I love it. And we actually were kind of due, because we had 2 not so great versions, one for PBS and one for one modern retelling that was terrible in 2018. So I was excited to get this new version. Normally I'm not a fan of nonlinear storytelling, and so I was really nervous about that, but I actually think it helped the story, because you saw Amy with Laurie from very early on, which helped with that, because that's always felt a little bit of sort of a I don't know what the word is, but kind of a last minute, it's like, here, we'll put you with Laurie, and it's not as satisfying as in this version. It's from the very beginning. You almost have it more invested in their relationship than even Laurie and Joe. And so I really appreciated that. It definitely made Laurie and Amy's character way more like sensible, and you kind of agreed with them and could understand why they did what they did. I have a few little nitpicks as a hardcore fan of the book. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I really actually really liked Emma Watson. I'm normally kind of mixed on her, but I thought
Oh,
she was great as Meg, and I liked the whole message of just because my choices are different than yours doesn't mean they're not important.
mhm.
And so I really enjoyed this film.
Yeah, I have no relationship to Little Women from before seeing this movie. Really, I had never read it or seen any of the adaptations, but I loved this movie.
Mm.
It's my favorite movie of the year, I think, and it's my favorite of the nominees. And I think it's just so beautiful in so many ways. And I really love um, that it. I don't know. I just loved it, and I think I really love the part towards the end when they're talking about Joe's novel, and they kind of like the sisters are going back and forth about like why write the novel, right? And like she says like, well, writing about our lives, that's not really important, and then the other one's like, well, but maybe writing about it is going to make it seem important,
Hmm.
you know. And I think that's kind of like the attitude that I love about this movie, and about a lot of something that I really love in movies is to see these sort of like common daily lives be put on a big screen. That's what I love also about Support the Girls, which was my favorite last year.
Hmm.
And that's what I really love about Little Women. And that's something that I feel is one of my big frustrations with this year's nominations. Even though Little Women is in the Best Picture, and I'm really happy for that, I think that a lot of the movies that are being rewarded this year have that almost a bit of a superficial sheen of what is important, right? Like older men and violence and mobsters and like war and things like that. That you know that we have come to accept as being important, but like there's other stuff that is important to our daily lives. Like I don't interact with mobsters on a daily basis or with war that
Hmm.
much,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's these interesting points of views that you can bring to this stuff. And Little Women also has to do with living through war in its own way, you know.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. I really love it.
Yeah, it's really a good film. I really enjoyed it as well. So, all right, then we have Marriage Story, and I really held off on watching this movie because I just felt like I was just not in the mood to watch, especially on the holidays, to watch a movie about divorce and I don't think it's necessarily like really my type of movie. Like I'm never gonna watch this movie again, but it's very well done and for what it is and very well acted and it definitely captures
Mhm.
that experience I think very well. I think I might have been a little more interested in the movie if it had been people that like couldn't afford to have $25,000 uh, whatever
Lawyers, yeah.
yeah lawyers um uh like if they were really more struggling than these sort of hipster types would might have been a little more interesting to me, but nevertheless it was very well done. It definitely captured this experience and um so yeah it was good. It's very depressing
Hmm.
to me.
I also I like Marriage Story a lot. I like Noah Baumbach as a director a lot. I this is not my favorite of his movies, but I think it's really good, and I really think it has. I think maybe certain moments and certain scenes I really love, and the whole doesn't totally come together for me. But even though I still really like it, I think there's like some standout scenes that I felt really great, especially the scene where the sort of like the inspector from child services comes to visit Adam
Oh
Driver's
yeah.
apartment. I think that scene is so good. It's so funny, and it's so many feelings and things are going on at the same time. You're feeling, I don't know, my experience watching it, that was this is so funny, but it's also like so harrowing in its own way. I don't know. I
It
really
was
love
very
that.
stressful to watch. Like this movie is
Yeah,
just like, ah,
it
oh
was very
no.
stressful, but also I thought the woman who played the agent, she was
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, she was good. Well, also I do appreciate that the movie did not take sides. Like
Mm,
I feel like it was pretty even-handed as far as who are we rooting for in this divorce. Like it really uh you felt
yeah.
for I at least I didn't. Did you agree or no?
Yeah, I've heard some people say that it takes more of Adam Driver's side, and I think it's because most of the Scarlett Johansson stuff is in the beginning of the movie, and then towards
Mm.
the end it focuses more on Adam Driver, I would say. But I also think that a lot it's I don't know. I wonder how much of that reaction has to do with the way that we have been expected to watch movies for a long time. Like the man is usually the protagonist, and the woman is a supporting role. And are we putting the focus there? Is the movie putting the focus there? Also, what is I think a lot about the character's story is that Adam Driver's character has to learn that he has not been listening to Scarlett Johansson. He has not, and that she has to do all these things because if she tries to talk with him, he just will do whatever he wants. And so the movie is it's kind of hard to follow her sometimes because of that.
I don't know though, but I feel like in movies about marriage, it's often the female character is often seen as sort of the victim kind of character, whereas here, she's definitely not the victim, uh, and it's because it's not like an like an an abusive relationship, that somebody's towering out of or something like that kind of a situation. But yeah, I felt like it was. I can see what you mean about it. Hers being more at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
so it can kind of and it's just such a Adam Driver's having such a moment that maybe that's part of it as well. That we're just kind of rooting for the guy because he's I don't know. Okay. Oh, we gotta. Oh, still got 3 more. Okay. Then we have 1917. So this is our World War I epic, where we are down in the trenches with these 2 soldiers going to deliver this message to the front line to prevent them from going into a battle. I really thought this movie was amazing. I was like mentally drained after I saw it. I was just I don't know. I just thought it was an incredible experience. Uh, but yeah. So, what did you think?
I'm a little mixed on it. I think some scenes really benefit from the whole one take approach and cinematography thing, racking up the tension, and then some other scenes really don't for me. And I have this thing that I'm trying to work through with 1917, in which I feel like it's a movie that kind of looks very beautiful and it's very technically accomplished, but I don't know if that goes with what its subject matter is, if that makes sense. Like I wonder if it's a little too polished for me. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out because I saw it. I think it was last week. Yeah, so I'm not sure what I think of it. I'm kind of on the fence about it.
Fair enough. Okay, then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So this movie, I liked it well enough. I think that it had so many scenes of characters driving that was became kind of a joke for me
Wait, but what about
this year.
Ford v Ferrari? You love that.
Yeah,
It's all driving.
leisurely driving. um but it does have some great performances, and it's fun enough. I didn't love it, but yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
it's fine.
I liked it quite a bit. I think it's interesting as a Quentin Tarantino. I guess not a fan necessarily, but someone who's followed his career. I think it goes into some interesting places. I think it feels like he's trying to uh, figure some stuff out that he hadn't before. It's becoming more introspective about his own life and his own career. And the movies, I think it's a lot of fun. And it's got its own problems, but overall, I enjoyed it also.
Yeah. So it's only the second Tarantino movie that I've seen. I certainly liked it much better than Pulp Fiction, which I am an outlier on. I didn't
Yeah.
enjoy. So, all right, last film is Parasite, and we've already kind of talked about that quite a bit. So, but I just loved it. I thought it was so entertaining, but also thoughtful, but not message driven to the point of like being obnoxious about it. Like it allowed you to think for yourself. Like I was not a fan of like The Dead Don't Die this year, where it's like the narrator's literally telling you over and over again what he's trying to say. That was very annoying to me. Whereas this is like, it allows you to think for yourself, and it's funny, it's scary, it's got the gore if you were into that. It's just really fun, this movie, and it's so good. I love it.
Totally, totally. This and Little Women are the two of the nominees that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And if you allow me to do a little plug for our other podcast that we host together, the
Yes.
Criterion Project, we just did an episode on a movie called The Housemaid, which is a South Korean movie
Mm.
from the 1960s that was a huge influence on Bong Joon-ho, the director of Parasite. So if you're interested in knowing more about, like, the kind of things that influenced this brilliant movie, then go check that out at the Criterion Project.
Yeah, and we talked to quite a bit also about Parasite in there as
Mhm.
well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll put a link down for that in the description as well. So all right, so I feel like in discussing those, we will have covered a lot of the other nominees. So we'll just kind of go through these a little more quickly. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, so for Best Actor, we have Leonardo DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver, Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, Jonathan Pryce in The Two Popes, and Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory. Have
Mm-hmm.
you seen Pain and Glory?
Yes, it's really good. It's an
Uh,
Almodovar movie, which
yeah.
I'm a fan of, and yeah, and Antonio Banderas is really great. He is my favorite of the nominees in this category.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I have not gone to see it yet, but I guess it just went on streaming. So it's one of only two of these major nominees of acting, screenwriting,
Mm-hmm.
Best Picture that I have not seen. I haven't seen Richard Jewell,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't seen this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm real excited to see it because I do also
Yeah.
like what I've seen of Almodovar's films.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
yeah. So, and then I just watched The Two Popes last night. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a very interesting portrayal of faith and how faith evolves, and it's not a stagnant thing that I believe this. And that's something I really connected with because that's been my life experience. Is that I'm not the same believer that I was at 2023. It has changed and grown. There are definitely parts that felt pretty fictionalized to me, but
Mm,
I definitely thought Jonathan Pryce did a great job. So I liked it a lot better actually than I expected.
yeah. Um, yeah. We don't have to get too much into the two popes. I have complicated feelings about the two popes and the Pope in general and the Catholic Church. I grew up in a very Catholic country in a
Mm.
somewhat Catholic upbringing. I don't know about this movie. I don't want to get too into it. I would
Fair
say
enough.
Jonathan Pryce. I don't know. He seems like a little obsessed with playing famous Argentinian people, huh? Because he did Perón in Evita, and now he's playing the
Oh yeah,
Argentinian Pope. So I don't know
that's a good point.
what's going
Okay,
on there.
yeah. All right. So best actress, we have. I should probably say. And I should probably say who I think. Out of those choices, I guess I'd pick Adam Driver.
For
Um,
who your favorite is?
who I prefer. Yeah, my
Yeah.
favorite.
Who do you? It seems like Joaquin's gonna win, right?
It seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So best actress, we have Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, Charlize Theron for Bombshell, Renee Zellweger for Judy.
Hmm.
Yes, this one is the one I disagree with the most strongly because I thought that Judy was a very mediocre film. I didn't enjoy it. I thought that yes, she looks like Judy at the end of her life, but I just like Judy was a fighter. And if you listen to those recordings, like and watch them, like she was so charismatic despite being obviously very troubled. And the fact they didn't have her lip sync is bizarre to me because she sounded nothing like Judy at all. And I just thought that was a huge miss. And the story I just thought was so like I don't know, I just thought it was lame and I didn't like that movie at all and I didn't particularly like the performance, especially the singing. So that, and she'll probably win, but I don't like it.
Yeah,
So
she will probably win. I'm also not the biggest fan of Judy. This is, I think, the moment when we say that there's a bit of the pushback against this year's nominations has somewhat to do with the fact that Cynthia Erivo is the only non-white actor nominated this year, and there aren't really
right.
that much of representation, which is kind of frustrating because I thought it was a really good year with a lot of options. You know, you had the cast of Parasite, you had Lupita Nyong'o in Us, which I think she was great. You
Yeah.
have Aquafina and Suzan Zhao from The Farewell, which are also really great. So yeah, so it was particularly frustrating on that front, I would
Yeah,
say.
I mean, for the Farewell to get nothing, I was really surprised. I thought it would at least get this best supporting. I
Yeah.
was very surprised about that.
I was also surprised. I thought it would get like, if not an act, and then maybe like a screenplay or something, but
Yeah,
absolutely nothing was really
and
really frustrating.
someone's saying that A24 got almost completely skunked. It got a lighthouse for cinematography, a couple other I think a few things, but
Mhm.
did they just drop the ball on their? I just wonder if maybe or
I just think
with
they
their
didn't get the kind of movies that the Academy is going to nominate. And they've done great work in the past trying to get movies that don't usually get recognized by the Oscars recognized,
well,
but
Moonlight, of course,
with
was being the
Moonlight,
ultimate.
yeah, but this year seems to have been you know, the other thing about this year is that the Oscars are really early on February 9th, so the I think the voters are not seeing as many movies as they usually do, and that's why you have so many movies getting like more than 10, 11 nominations. You know,
Yeah,
Joker has 11, Irishman has 10, and I think that speaks to the fact that the voters have not seen that many movies.
yeah.
You know, they're just
The-
nominating the same movie in every category.
yeah, I mean, Portrait of a Lady on Fire hasn't even come out yet for most people. So,
Yeah, yeah.
for example, okay, so yes, best director we have Martin Scorsese, The Irishman, Todd Phillips, Joker, Sam Mendes, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino, Parasite, Bong Joon-ho. So, you know, a lot of people were very upset about no female directors. I have I guess mixed feelings about that because I think that I think that Greta Gerwig certainly was deserving, and you know I don't really like The Irishman or Joker, so I mean I certainly would put it in there. Um, but it's hard because what's the Academy really supposed to do? Because they put it out there for people to vote, and that's what they've been trying to add a lot more younger people and people of color. So it's sort of a weird situation. Like I don't
Mm.
know what they just that's who people voted for. So what do you
Yeah.
do? I don't
Well, I
know. It's
think,
tricky.
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely frustrated because I love Greta Gerwig's work, and I think
Yeah.
similarly that there's a lot of great movies directed by women this year. I think it was not that they weren't out there, because you know we talked about The Farewell. You also had
Yeah.
A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which I thought was great. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. You have Hustlers, and you have all these movies, and I think
Hmm.
some of it has to do with what I was talking about with Little Women, of what voters and people think is important and what they don't. You know, a movie about mobsters, about war, about violence done by men is seen as important. A movie about, Little Women, or like
Hmm.
female strippers or things like that, are seen as less important, or
Right.
crass, or whatever. So I think it's a change. I mean, change in the voting body, sure, but also a change in the in mentality. And I think it's important for people to point out that there are certain biases about the way we have been taught to see movies, and
Hmm.
to prioritize certain movies
Yeah.
over other movies.
I mean, and that kind of change is a long change. I mean, because
Yeah,
yeah, it's tricky. I don't know.
yeah.
It's a tricky thing. Um, anyway, so there you go. All right, then best supporting actor we have Tom Hanks, Beautiful in the Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins, The Two Popes, Al Pacino, The Irishman, Joe Pesci, The Irishman, Brad Pitt, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I kind of feel like this is Brad Pitt's to lose. Do you agree?
I think so. It looks like he's gonna win, and I'm happy because I love Brad Pitt as an actor, and I think he's really good in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think he's
Yeah.
really funny, and I think he's really cool. He's like doing all the Brad Pitt things that we love or that I love.
Hmm.
I'm curious to know what you think of A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood because you're such a Won't You Be My Neighbor fan, and I thought the movie was great, and I love Tom Hanks in it.
I love Tom Hanks in it. I think that I gave it a positive. I gave it a fresh. It was a good movie. I felt like Lloyd Vogel's story was kind of generic. I
Uh,
it, I felt like it's one of those biopics where it's like we are focusing on the least interesting person as opposed to the actual interesting person that
hmm,
is here. But I didn't hate it. I liked it just fine. I like Chris Cooper's always good. And but I don't know. I just think that Fred Rogers had such incredible moments in his life, like particularly when he's speaking before Congress and he gets that crusty old senator to change his mind about the
hmm,
funding. Like
hmm,
that is such an incredible part of that documentary where I was just like, oh my gosh, wow, I
hmm.
love Fred Rogers.
Yeah.
Um, and
That's kind
I
of what you have the documentary for, though. I feel like this movie was trying to do something different. I really like the idea of this movie of being like an episode of the show, but for adults. I
yeah,
don't know. I
yeah,
really
but
love that.
to me, it was kind of like my week with Marilyn, where it's like, why are we spending all this time with this guy when we could be spending time with Marilyn, who's the
Hmm.
interesting person? But
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. I liked it just fine. I just don't. It to me, it wasn't great. But he was very good in the role, and I think he's worthy of the nomination. Um,
Yeah.
so
I
anyway, but
agree.
yeah, I love Brad Pitt in it was my favorite. He was my favorite part of the movie. So,
Definitely.
um, okay, best supporting actress. We have Kathy Bates, Richard Jewell, Laura Dern in Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson, Jojo Rabbit, Florence Pugh in Little Women, Margot Robbie in Bombshell. So I feel like maybe you can explain.
Hmm.
I thought that Laura Dern was perfectly fine. Like I thought she did a good job with the role, but there was nothing in that performance to me that seemed
Hmm.
like outstanding. I thought she was fine. Like I don't I what am I missing? What did you
Yeah.
see in
I
that
will get
performance?
I will
Or
get to that in a second. I just need to first say this is the thing that made me the most upset in nomination morning, where Jennifer Lopez wasn't nominated.
yeah.
And this is the big thing that made me think of this whole thing about like the movies that we think are important and the ones that we don't. And I really think the fact that the subject matter was the thing that made her miss. The fact that Hustlers is about a particular kind of woman that is just
Mhm.
seen as not important or like trashy, you know?
Yeah.
And that made me really really upset because I think her performance is amazing. I think you like the movie fine, maybe not that much if I
Yeah,
remember
I
correctly.
gave it a positive review. I liked
Hmm.
it fine. To me and I thought all the performances were great.
Hmm.
To me it was a little repetitive. Like it would
Hmm.
make its point and then it would make it again and then it would make it again and then make it
Hmm.
again. And so I thought the script could have used some work personally. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. Um,
Yeah.
but that was my critique of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I really loved Hustlers, and I was really upset about it. But regardless of that,
I was
Laura
shocked.
Dern,
I thought for sure that J Lo was getting nominated.
yeah.
Also, I really thought that the grandma in the farewell was going to get nominated. I thought it was almost a given.
And how amazing would have those nominations been? I mean, I haven't seen
Yeah,
Kathy Bates and Richard Jewell, but like Margot Robbie and Bombshell, give me a break.
yeah.
That's like what? That's not a role. Florence Pugh is great in Little Women. Scarlett Johansson enjoyed the Rabbit. I don't know what the hell's going on with that accent. Um, but then Laura Dern, I think she's like you say, I think she's really good in Marriage Story. It's not the best performance of the year, but I think Laura Dern is just such a beloved actress, and she's
Yeah.
been around for a while, and
Career
she's been doing a
long.
lot of good movies, and her profile is really big. She's Big Little Lies. She was in Twin Peaks, and she was in the Star Wars. She's in Little Women. Everybody loves her. She's a member of the board of directors of the Academy, so she's
Uh,
very active and like people love her. And I love Laura Dern, so I'm okay with her winning,
well,
especially
I
since they didn't nominate J Lo at all.
yeah. I mean, I have no problem. I just yeah, if it's a career nom, that's fine. I just thought it was. I just felt like, am I missing something? Like, what? This just seems like a totally normal performance. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I would give, out of these nominees, I haven't seen Richard Jewell, but out of these nominees, I would give it to Florence Pugh.
Me too. I love Florence Pugh in Little Women. She was so good.
Yeah. Okay, best adapted screenplay, we have The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, and The Two Popes. We've talked about all of these. I would, if it was me, I would give it to Little Women for sure.
Me too. I mean, I love Little Women. Nothing surprising there.
Okay, and then best original screenplay, we have Knives Out, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. So yeah, Knives Out didn't get much love. I know you did care for it. I thought it was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. But you know, it is what it is, I guess. So out of these, I mean, see, to me, 1917 is a strange choice. It doesn't really have hardly any screenplay, so that's weird. But I would definitely give it to Parasite for sure.
Of course, Parasite screenplay is so tight. It's so good.
Yeah. Okay, best animated feature. So this was a big shock to me. So it's How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Claws, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. I was very surprised. No Frozen.
No 2. Frozen 2.
I was I mean, I loved the movie. I know that other people had mixed feelings about it. I loved it. But I don't know. I was just really surprised that it wasn't nominated.
I think the animated feature branch at the Academy can only take so many sequels, and I think they have proven again and again that they don't love nominating sequels. And 3 sequels was a lot.
Yeah,
I had the feeling that one of them was going to miss. I thought it was going to be How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, me too.
But it ended up being Frozen 2.
Yeah. And Claws, yay! That was one of my happy surprises.
Yes, Claws, my favorite animated movie of the year. So funny, so like heartwarming. Such a good movie. I'm really happy that it's nominated. I'm crossing my fingers that maybe it can win just because the race seems to be wide open. Because Missing Link won the Golden Globe, and that came totally out of nowhere.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, Claus was my favorite movie of the year. I mean, I love Christmas movies.
Oh, wow.
Hello. Yes, I love 2D animation. I love animated films. It was so well done. It had like such a heart to it. I loved the way that he used light and color, and I just absolutely loved the movie.
It was so good.
Yeah, and so. I mean, I would be beyond thrilled if it won. It does have the Netflix barrier to it, which
but it also has the Netflix money, so maybe now we can get a campaign going.
Well, and it's also interesting because G Kids has had such a run with getting films into getting nominated. Well, this year they didn't get any, and now we have 2 from Netflix, so that could be a bit of a changing of the guard.
What do we think happened there? It's just that they didn't have a particular movie to
Well, no, they had really strong films in they had they tried, I think they put all their eggs in the Weathering with You basket, that there might be some like Your Name kind of maybe some goodwill there because Your Name hadn't gotten nominated but unfortunately Weathering with You is not nearly as strong a film as Your Name. It's not, I didn't hate it, but it was not as good as I wanted it to be. But they had a really strong film called Promare, which I loved. It was one of my favorite of the year. But it's very weird. So
and it's also I didn't even hear about. I feel like they maybe didn't play their chips right or didn't showcase the right movie.
But they were definitely all in for Weathering with You, that was going to be the one, I think. But they have an anime bias with the Academy, so that's tough. And I think that they also had a beautiful film called Funan, which I highly recommend. It's available to rent, stream. I loved it. It was so moving that people should check out. But yeah, Kids, they didn't get it, so it's interesting. And so maybe that's a changing of the guard a little bit, that Netflix is going to be, because they have an incredible group of animators that they have gathered together
For Netflix,
over
right?
at over at Netflix, and it's very exciting for all of us that are huge animation buffs. Even they've got Guillermo del Toro working on projects. They have just an incredible. They have the I can't think of his name all of a sudden, but the guy who did Book of Life, he's working on a project. They have
Yeah.
just so many exciting projects that are going to be coming. Glenn Keane is doing a movie that's coming out this year in 2020. That's a
Oh,
musical that looks
I didn't know that.
amazing. Yeah, and so it's pretty exciting for animation fans. And so yeah, we had, and this is Leica has managed to get every single one of their films nominated for animated film, which is pretty amazing actually.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. And if Missing
So
Link, which wasn't such a dud, I would think it's the perfect time for it to win.
yeah,
I just don't know if it's. I mean, maybe it'll do it because it did at the Globes, and they're,
yeah.
the category spread out.
It could be. I mean, most people liked it much better than you and I did. But
Yeah.
I still think Toy Story 4 is going to win. But we'll
Okay.
see. It could be.
All right.
Um,
Well, I'm gonna keep my
yeah.
fingers crossed for Klaus.
Yes. Okay. Let's zoom through some of these. So best cinematography, The Irishman, Joker, The Lighthouse, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So these are all, I think, pretty good cinematography. Kind of cool
Yeah.
to see The Lighthouse in there because it was
Yep.
different. But yeah, what would you pick out of these?
For my favorite, The Lighthouse, for I think 1917 is gonna walk with it.
Yeah.
Cinematography with that whole one take thing, and Roger
Yeah.
Deakins, I think it's in the
Agreed.
bag.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Best costume design. We have The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Also, I think all good costumes. So I would have actually personally nominated the Maleficent movie. That
Oh.
movie had amazing costumes. But so out of these nominees, I would give it to Little Women. I think it was the best.
I think Little Women has great costumes. I love Jacqueline Duran, who's the costume designer. I think I would love to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood win because Arian Phillips, costume designer, has never won, and she has done some amazing work throughout the years. She did some of my favorite costumes for Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and she's done a lot of Madonna stuff and a lot of movies, and I would love to see her win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the best documentary feature, I haven't seen any of these films. Of course, I was I'm not disappointed because I didn't expect it because the documentary branch is not the best. But I loved the movie Maiden this
Mm,
year, and of course, because the documentary branch, they don't like rewarding, inspiring, crowd pleasing films. They like these
yeah.
talking heads, like controversial expose, whatever films, and so yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
they've also gone very international in the last few years. You look at
Yeah,
these nominations, you have a couple of movies about Syria, and then you have a Brazilian movie, and you have a Macedonian movie. An American Factories kind of takes place in America, but it's about Chinese business coming to America. So it's I think they've become more international flavored
I mean,
this
technically, Maiden is from Great Britain, but yeah, I get your point. That's true,
Oh,
and I haven't seen any of these films, so maybe they're all better than Maiden. I have no idea, but I
they're
just
probably all really great. I've heard good things about them. The big thing here was the surprise that Apollo 11 didn't get nominated. I
yeah,
think a
that's
lot of people
true.
were expecting that, and I think that's why I'm bringing up the international thing, number one,
Yeah.
and number two. It's also the thing I think documentary branch has started to kind of like want to. It seems to be wanting to avoid the front runners, right? Apollo
Yeah.
11 was seen as that. Won't You Be My Neighbor was the same thing last year. So they think they actively want to reward like
Mm.
smaller movies that are not
I
expected
heard
to
an
get
interesting point about Apollo 11 though, that there was no new footage shot, none, zero. So
right.
is that a movie? You know what I mean? Like, it the is that a problem? I don't know. I mean, I liked the movie, but like, if you're is it a editing achievement
Hmm.
and not a I don't know. It's sort of
Documentary
a weird.
feature.
It's a weird movie. So it's it's,
Hmm.
it's kind of a
It's not a problem for me, but I think I've heard before that the documentary branch does not love uh, documentaries that are all stock footage. I feel
I
like
mean,
they rarely
it's
get
the
them.
first time that it's ever happened where it's been 100%. Like, no, I mean, that I've heard of at least. I mean, this is 100%
Yeah, I mean, I
all.
don't know.
I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, okay. So, best editing, we have Ford v Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Parasite. I mean, I would definitely give this one to Parasite, but
Hmm.
I mean, I think all of these had pretty good editing, to be honest.
Uh,
For Irishman,
I mean, sure.
I don't think
I
was
mean, I
good
think The
editing.
Irishman. I mean, I don't know. I don't think the editing in The Irishman is necessarily bad. It's really hard to judge editing, I guess. It's such an invisible art. I think it's interesting
Yeah.
that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's not nominated
Yeah.
here. Usually, if you're going to win Best Picture, you get film editing. 1917, because of the long shots, it makes sense that the editors would not nominate it because it's all made to seem like there is no editing there.
Mhm.
So I don't think that necessarily hurts its chances. I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood maybe is a little weaker than we think, not being here.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Then for international feature film, they have Corpus Christi from Poland, Honeyland from North Macedonia, which is one of the first times that a documentary has been nominated um, for this category.
And
Um,
and definitely the first time that a movie is nominated for both documentary and international film in the same year, the same
yeah,
movie. So
yeah.
that's
The only
interesting.
Yeah. Okay, and then Les Miserables, which is not about the book. It's a different story. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet, though. Pain and Glory from Spain, and Parasite from South Korea. So my only worry with this category is that they're going to give it to Parasite and then think that's like a consolation prize, so they don't have to give the big prize to them.
Yeah, I know. I know. I mean, Parasite's most definitely going to win this. I just hope that it can also win this
I
picture.
know, me too. So makeup and hairstyling. So Bombshell, Joker, Judy, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and 1917. And I think these are all deserving. I mean, Bombshell, I think, is going to win.
Yeah, the Megan Kelly thing is just really very uncanny. So
I mean, yeah. So although
this is the, yeah, go ahead.
I do think that the Maleficent makeup was incredible, and I think it's
Oh yeah,
deserved.
I was
Yeah.
gonna ask about that because I didn't see Maleficent. Like, what's going on there? Is there some creatures or something going on?
I mean, just every single character has has makeup, like even just her horns alone are incredible. I don't know where
Mm-hmm.
that, if that's costume or if that's makeup or
Mm-hmm.
hairstyling or what. I mean, that movie, it's not a, I went rotten on it. It's because it kind of loses its way, but it's a weird movie. I actually would be curious for your thoughts because it's a bonkers film, and
Okay.
they they actually did, I think, genuinely really try to make something weird and different, and I hated the original. So
Hmm.
I was really close to Fresh, but it just gets kind of mired in the end. But the production design was really good, and all the makeup and costumes and everything was
Mm,
very, very, very well done.
yeah,
Um,
sounds
anyway,
incredible.
yeah. So original score, we have Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, I must admit, I rolled my eyes. I mean, I love John Williams, of course, everybody does, but
Yeah. I mean, there's the talk of this maybe his last score and whatever and whatever. So I think there's a little bit of sentimentality there. He's been nominated for, other than the prequels, for every Star Wars score that he's ever done.
yeah,
So
I don't know. So yeah, I mean, if it was just me, I would pick Little Women. I loved
I
that
love the Little
score.
Women score, but I also love the Marriage Story score. So it's
Mhm.
it's between those two for me.
Yeah, I think the Joker will actually win. I
Yeah.
I think.
Is there something special about that score? You just saw it. I don't remember the score at all.
I
Just
mean,
like it's a little drony, right? It's like a little bit.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought it was a decent score, but I don't know. I just feel like there's momentum there, and she's pretty cool, uh, interesting. It's
Yeah.
cool to have a female composer, and I don't
Yeah,
know, just
that's
from the Golden
true. Like
Globes and
the
uh,
music branch is one of the like there's so rare to get female composers nominated, let alone win. So that would
yeah.
be kind of a big deal.
Yeah. So best original song, we have "I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away," Toy Story 4. I'm gonna love me again from Rocket Man. I'm Standing with You from Breakthrough. Into the Unknown, Frozen 2. Stand Up from Harriet. So I was so
What a
disappointed.
category.
Yeah, the category that broke the heart, because I really wanted Glasgow from Wild Rose to be nominated. I knew it was an uphill battle, but I thought maybe with Mary Steen version,
Mm-hmm.
the writer, that might be enough to kind of, because I loved Wild Rose. It was in my top 10 of the year. I thought it was such a great film, and I think it will be a film that people will kind of come to and will sort of be a film that people will find and really love, especially if Jessie Buckley becomes more and more famous.
Mm-hmm.
Her singing is incredible, and the song is so beautiful. And I mean, if I like it better than Frozen songs, that's saying something. And because I love Lopez's and their songwriting and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So I was disappointed, and I guess this breakthrough song is from Diane Warren, who's a Academy favorite. And I mean, I actually enjoyed Breakthrough. I think it's a decent little film, but I come on, Glasgow's so good. Ugh.
And this category kind of lame, right? Like there's not like any very exciting songs here. I don't even know what's
Yeah,
nominated.
we
I
could
think
have
what's
had.
interesting actually is that Rocketman didn't really do very well. This is the only
Yeah, you're
nomination
right.
that they got. And Taron
Yeah.
Egerton won the Golden Globe, and I thought costumes and makeup for Elton John movie,
Oh
like
yeah.
so yeah,
It's
the
too
Academy
bad.
really wasn't into Rocketman.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Rocket Man, so that's very true. But oh man, we could have had Jessie Buckley singing Glasgow at the Oscars. That would have been amazing.
Do you think they'll even do the performances with this group of songs?
I hope not. I mean, we spend like 80% of I mean, maybe not 80. We spent a lot of the time of the Oscar
Hmm.
broadcast on original song. Like, why are we doing that? I don't know.
I mean,
But
sometimes it's great, like when Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper perform at the piano, and
yeah,
there's like this like romantic chemistry. It's amazing. But then other times, I mean, I don't know if we want to listen to "I'm Standing with You" from Breakthrough for 3 minutes.
right. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, well, production design, we have the Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. I think those are all very deserving. All had good production design. Uh, I don't know. What do you think will win of this one?
What will win?
Hmm.
I'm not so sure. I think maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood will
Yeah,
win.
that would be my
Um,
pick as well.
yeah, I would love for Parasite though. The house was incredible, and they
Yeah.
built it specifically for the movie.
I just think that people think that like modern is easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But
definitely. It's a bias thing.
I think the Once Upon a Hollywood will win, and it's worthy. It was very well done.
Yeah,
Best sound editing: Ford v Ferrari, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Also, I think all of these are worthy. Which is the one that war movies usually win? Is that editing?
uh,
Thing?
they
Editing?
tend to win in both very
Both.
often, especially in editing. I think.
Mm. Well, I think the 1917 will win.
I think it'll probably win both.
Yeah. Because sound mixing, we have Ad Astra, which got totally skunked.
But I think it's hilarious that it got this nomination because it didn't even have a campaign and people were not. So I think the fact that it
Yeah.
just got a random nomination was kind of exciting to
Yeah.
me.
Ford v Ferrari, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So also 1917 is probably going to win. And
Probably. I mean, I
so,
wouldn't be shocked if Ford v Ferrari got the sound
mhm,
categories, but I think it's probably going to be
yeah.
1917.
Yeah. So all right. Best visual effects, we have Avengers Endgame. It's so low nomination. The Irishman, The Lion King, which is so funny because it's an animated film. And so not the I mean that irritates me. 1917 and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, I could go on forever about The Lion King, but I won't. But it's not a visual effects film. It's an animated film. It shouldn't be in this category. It's ridiculous. Um, but visual effects, I mean, I don't know. Which do you think this will go to 1917?
I think it's going to The Lion King, honestly.
But it's not a visual effects.
I know, but they love animals. They love CG. Like, every time there's a lion or something, they like Life of Pi got it. The Jungle Book got it. The Golden Compass got it. So they love animals in this
Oh,
category.
I'll be so mad. I'll be so mad. I'll be more mad about that than Renee winning. But yeah, you're probably right. Ugh.
And it is in its own way impressive, like how photorealistic they are, I guess. So I think they might go with that.
It is, but it just makes it's just not it's not a live action film. It's an animated film.
But animated films can get nominated for visual effects, right? Kubo got nominated.
But that's stop. Yeah, I guess that's feels different because that's stop motion, but it's not. You're right. You're right. You're right.
But if Planet of the Apes can get nominated, it's kind of getting rewarded for the same thing that Lion King is, right? Animating.
Yeah, I just think it's an animated film, not a live action film. So the fact that it's I don't know, it just irritates me what Disney is doing and pretending that it's
not animated.
Not animated. Like it's really rude to the animators who worked for forever, to make these visuals to pretend that it's not animated. I don't know. Very irritating. But I don't know. Hopefully that won't be the case. But I mean I feel like the best one out of those is Avengers Endgame, but that's just me. Okay, I think that's it. I think we did it.
What about animated shorts? Have you seen these?
I've seen 2 of them. I've seen Kipple, which is available if you can YouTube it. It's one of this Pixar Spark shorts. And it's super cute. It's really good. I wouldn't be surprised if that were to win, but Hair Love is so good. It's got so much heart and it's such a good short, and the whole team that made it are just the best, and I highly recommend checking that one out, watching that one.
That's the only one I've seen, and I think it was very cute. So I would be happy if it won, even though I haven't seen the others, but I'm really interested to see them. So
me too. I haven't seen any of the documentary live action shorts either, so we'll just have to see. So there we go. That's the Oscars. So I don't know, it's an interesting year. I've seen it's probably the year that I've seen the most of the nominees, and so it's kind of interesting. So yeah, we'll see how it all plays out, and we're gonna do our little award ceremony that we do that we've done the last couple of years. We have our fun categories like Best Kiss, which are way better than the Oscars. So we'll talk about that and let you all know when we're going to do that, because it's a lot of fun. But let us know, if you're listening, what you think of all these nominees. Do you think we're crazy in our opinions? We probably are. Put in the comments what you think, and or let us know on Twitter. And like I said, we'll have all those various links to things we talked about in the description section, so make sure you check that out. And Conrado, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. That is at Coco Hits New York. You can also find me on Letterboxd if you search my name, Conrado Falco. And you can always find me at the Criterion Project, which we host together every 2 weeks. We have a new episode about a movie that's available on the Criterion channel. it is not as pretentious as it sounds. It's a lot of fun, and we love discovering these great, weird movies. So
Yeah.
please check it
Yeah,
out.
check it out. We have a lot of fun with that, and so yes, I'll have the link for that also in the description. So you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out, and also you can find me at the Hallmarkies podcast for the insight into the true grid films of
Mhm.
2019. So make sure you check that out as well.
Yeah,
And so thanks so much. This was fun. A lot of fun.
it's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. And we will talk to you all later. Happy
Yeah,
Oscars. Bye, everybody.
bye bye.